Hello and welcome to Girl Awakening YouTube. I'm Jo Hendy.
And I'm Amanda Parker. Enjoy this episode of Girl Awakening in all of its vulnerable sacredness.
And remember to subscribe and share.
Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning, Jo. Welcome to
Wednesday.
Yay!
Podcast Wednesday. It's been a while. It feels like it's been a while.
Yes, and I'm not sure whether it's because physically it's been a while or because there's just so much happening every day.
Yeah, absolutely. The winds of change are moving fast. That was very profound of me, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yes, I think that's in a book somewhere.
We have another amazing woman joining us today on Girl Awakening. Her story is beautiful. Oh, it's beginnings is a great way to start.
And I feel like because there's so much, it's escaping into our, or not even escaping, being tied into our heads at the moment, that where we're going to go today with this beautiful lady is going to be very grounding and a very nurturing space that is really important for all of us to own.
Absolutely, absolutely. Did you want to read Bree's?
I'd love to introduce our guest today, Bree, who is the co-collaborator of Nurtured Beginnings Online. It's a holistic online pregnancy course offering support, evidence-based education and community. Community, remember that word, everybody. It's a big one for now. To support women during pregnancy and postpartum. Bree is a mother to 3 beautiful cubs, including twins. She is a certified holistic nutrition consultant through Oh Baby Academy, specialising in pregnancy, postpartum and babies nutrition. She spent many years working in the hospitality industry, providing amazing dining experiences for customers and dynamic work environments for her teams. Bree is all about good food and produce. Yay.
Yeah.
Yes. She recently turned her front yard into an organic farm. My dream. Welcome, Bree.
Welcome, Bree.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. What a beautiful way to get to know you.
Yes.
And also we're having a Roha on next week, which is your co-creator in Nurtured Beginnings. Before we go into your story, Bree, do you want to share a little bit about Nurtured Beginnings?
Yeah, of course. So you mentioned Nurtured Beginnings is an online holistic pregnancy course. We just kicked it off and we've had just the most amazing experience so far in connecting to just incredible women. So the whole premise of the course is to hopefully coexist alongside in-person doula support, alongside, calm birth education, antenatal courses, but this is to ground, nourish, nurture, connect, just bring that community into a woman's pregnancy. If they're thinking of having a more holistic pregnancy, if they want to build trust within themselves, within their body, if they want to nourish themselves, have recipes, inspiration, downloadables, videos, if they want access to guest speakers, we speak to Chinese medicine women, birth keepers, nutritionists, the whole works, lactation consultants, just to really build that kind of knowledge and that power in this beautiful experience of their pregnancy.
I just love, Oh, I think you're going to say what I was going to say. I love the depth and the width, or the, what do you call that? The expansion of what you're talking about, because it is the most sacred time for a woman.
Yes.
And the child.
I think so. And I think until you've really sunk your teeth into it and you've had a little taste of that, you just don't realize how special that is, which I guess is why we've created the course, to give women access to all of this while they're in pregnancy, so they can have those little seeds planted and then they can take what they need when they need it. There's loads of meditations and beautiful breath works and yoga practices and that sort of thing, which are all safe in pregnancy. So we're so proud of what we've created so far.
Amazing. Yeah. And I love that it's all in one place for people, because sometimes there's so much going on when you're a mum, particularly a new mum. And often our experiences, as you just alluded to, are in hindsight, where we look back and go, oh, and then it's, there's other things that go on with that experience then, and the recognition in hindsight. So to have access to all of that in one portal, one space, and be supported is just such an incredible embrace for a mum and a father, like a young family or a family of any age, really, to receive. So amazing. Well done.
Yeah. Thank you for creating such a space for this very, very special sacred moment for not only mum but dad and the bub as well,
and grandparents
yes, and grandparents. So Bree, we're going to jump straight in. We want to know about you. We want to hear your story, and even how you came to create this magic that you've just been talking about. So our question is, how did your awakening begin?
Well, my awakening has been really slow. I feel like I've been at a snail's pace with this one, but I feel like all in good time. And I can only say that now, as like certain situations have arrived, or I've been like, oh, this is the right time for that. And it all makes sense. I don't know if that's just getting older or whatever. In my early kind of days, I think I've always been interested in energy, like the energy of people, like the feel of environments. I think that might have stemmed from my experience in hospitality and in restaurants, just like reading the room, like really kind of, following your intuition, particularly if you're running large teams as well. Like there's a lot of kind of sense checking, which I really thrived on. And I really love still. People watching is just the best. So I guess it all started there in terms of just like reading people's energy and feel. And then I guess I have always been interested in kinesiology, Chinese medicine, kind of other holistic practices. My story from childhood, I did not really grow up that way. I did see a naturopath when I was young. Mum used to take me and my brother there, but nothing really in terms of holistic health. So it's just kind of been my slow journey on that regard. I did see an amazing chiropractor for years who integrated kinesiology and chiropractics, which was really awesome. And I think that kind of started to expand me in terms of my awakening in that side of things as well. And then I recall I did a bit of travel. I had a long-term relationship and that ended, and I did some solo travel. Met up with a friend on the way, but I went to South America and hiked and did the Inca trek.
Yes.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible. And I guess I didn't really understand all of that kind of layering of all that ancestral, beautiful traditions and all of that magic. But when I was there and I did that trek, and even just traveling after in that country, I was like, oh, this is energetic earth. Like this is earth. This is how it should feel. So I guess it just kind of kept like plodding along since then as well. And then motherhood. So I came back from my trip. I met my husband. Can't remember how long we were together before we had a kid, but it wasn't too long. It was a welcome surprise.
Confirmation of the chemistry, Bree.
Yes, exactly right. And then it just started kind of just other little things dropped in, like the day I had a beautiful birth with my firstborn, so really kind of powerful, primal, incredible. But on my son's birthday, we actually lost my nana. So she was old and it was her time, but I guess that kind of beautiful transition of passing the baton between like birth and death, that was just like another big, like obviously a grief process, but such a polarity between like joy and then the leaving. So all of these little things along the way have just, I guess, started to wake me up a little bit more as well. And obviously the whole COVID, and then we moved down the South Coast, which I later realized was where my grandfather grew up, and that's why it felt so much like home. And just all these little things along the way.
It sounds like just listening to you, it's like a calling. Each place you've been, there's been a calling that you're probably even unaware of, but you just followed it anyway. Like even trekking the Inca Trail is like, that's quite sacred place, you know, to go. And if that something must be happening, you know, when you're trekking through these countries that are so incredible, that you would be even unaware of until you understand more about it.
Absolutely. And I guess I have twins. They're 2.5 years old now. So I guess we had a beautiful kind of beautiful birth and a very challenging postpartum with my first. And then we had the twins, which was a very different birth, and then a very beautiful postpartum. So I've kind of had all of these little different experiences so far, which I've taken from. And then I met Araha after I had my twins. Her son's only 6 days apart or something from my twins. My husband actually introduced us. We met at the pub down the road on a Sunday afternoon. She was double parked with 2 margaritas. And
do you love that?
Yeah, so just the usual Sunday. And then we just got chatting about food, and then we just like had a really great conversation. It went straight to birth story, like I'd never met her before, and we just really connected. And I remember walking away from that meeting with her, and I said to my husband, I met her for a reason today. Like, why did I meet her? And I guess I've never really said that out loud before, but I was just like trying to make sense of all this. And then 4 months later, Nurtured Beginnings was born. So
wow. Oh, I love that. And I think, you know, for our listeners too, it's like, that's what, you know, I mean, even getting out and about, even on those days that you're just like, oh, I don't really want to go, or I don't want to go to the gym, or I don't want to go out, or I don't want to go out for lunch or whatever. Sometimes you can just meet that person that, you know, you've been longing to meet, whether it's in relationship or whether it's just a friendship or anyone that can open up something that you would have never thought was available before.
Absolutely. And it just still gives me chills. So I guess I've seen psychics in the past. Actually, it's the same one. I love her so much.
You'll have to drop her name.
We can link her in the show notes.
Yes.
And she said to me in a session that we had that like I will meet someone, and we'll be doing something connecting women, like a web in the online space. And all of this stuff. And then, I don't know, it just like really dropped in after I met Araha, and here we are.
Yay, it's so beautiful.
It's quite, listening to you talking about just going back to when you were having the chiropractic kinesiology treatments, like the beauty in these holistic treatments is just so multifaceted, because you're having a treatment for something that you needed at the time, but also it's awakening up other parts of you, like that sensory awareness part of yourself and the relationship you have with your body. And then that just starts to interplay with your environment and things. And I'm just listening to you talk is just so much a part of who you are, like the way you've described yourself with your different career paths and things, and how you've interacted and been aware of people. And it's quite beautiful how it just all is a beautiful flow and meant to be. Just we're given these gifts all the time.
Yeah. And sometimes I think we put them aside as being nothing. Like as soon as you started talking about when you worked in hospitality and you had to read the room and all that, I'm thinking about my daughter who she works in hospitality and she loves it and people love her. And she says, Mum, I just know. Yes. You know, I just know the space, and you know, once I've been there for a little while, I feel out the room. And you know, a lot of people put that like as nothing, and I'm like, no way. You're tapped in, you're tuned in, you can read the room, you know what's going on, you can feel people. That's an open heart to me. Like that's, you know,
or creating an environment that people, they pick up on that too, and they feel like they're having a great time, even though it might be just a margarita they're thinking about. There's all these other things.
It was a fine dining restaurant, which was like the main part of my career, and there was obviously a lot of pressure in that, but it was also like a very like tuned in.
Yes.
Every little element. That was the lighting, the smell, the sound, the feel, who was chatting over there, who wasn't here, you know.
Wow.
All these things.
Yeah, that's
where
really
they
beautiful.
Need support and things like that. And I had a similar experience when I was doing my training quite a few years ago, where I was working at a 24-hour casino in a 24-hour restaurant, and it was craziness, but it was so much fun. And I really felt what you were just sharing, and the difference it makes to how
Be open.
well, how you sort of just like support people without them being aware of that. They still feel that, and now those skills have translated into something quite much more, I'll say more intimate, but it's all intimate, and beautiful.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right, so we're going to move on to the next question. So when did you first notice a shift in your thoughts about the world? Like we talk about COVID, and a lot of people started to wake up about things that were happening on the planet that they probably didn't think about before. Were you always open to other ways of being, or other I don't know how to actually say this, like programming, for instance, on the planet, or programming from growing up? Were you aware of that, or were you just moving along like most of us? Like for me, so I just grew up in a small country town, and I was unaware. Like the news went on at 6 o'clock at night. I didn't like watching it. I hated it, but I didn't know why I hated it. I just didn't like watching it. But I grew up in a household where you believed everything that was on the news. You believed everything on the morning show or whatever. And it wasn't till, I was old enough to then start making my own decisions, and was like, oh, I don't know whether they're telling the truth. That's the kind of
she wants to know if you were part of the Matrix or not. Let's just cut to the chase.
I realized for the first time how intimate that question is, actually. I'm like, you've been asking that question for 2 years. And it's the first time that I've gone, well, that's quite an intimate question.
I totally hear you, and I couldn't articulate that any better than you did, so well. I was plodding along for quite a long time, I must say. I think when we were in the dreaded COVID, I was doing a HR role, and there was a lot of real legislation, and I had to really be like, oh, and it felt so icky to me. And I think that's when I just went from like 0 to hero in like step aside, like I'm not feeling this. So mine was definitely delayed. But then I guess mine was more from the health perspective. So listening to other podcasts, like I love Sherveen, who does Wake the Fake Up, and all of these sort of people who are just like saying it as it is. And it's all kind of like scientific and health backed. So from my understanding, it just makes sense. Like nothing else makes sense now. So that's been my journey too. Now I can't unknow what I know. So
It's had a powerful space to sit in. It's so beautiful.
I was just thinking that when you said that, it's like I think part of that awakening through the COVID thing too was that to wake, like literally wake us up, but to shake us out of just prodding along, just doing what we're told.
Yes.
Like most of it was to shake us up, wake us up out of that. It almost feels like the cement, to be able to be more free and powerful, and then just make choices from a space of sovereignty, so to speak, then and completely unaware of that beforehand, thinking that everything was okay,
We moved house down to the south coast. So I used to we kind of lived in the eastern suburbs, and now we're moving down south, like the south of New South Wales. I think off the back of COVID, with the house move, with the twins and the family, we had a real like reassessment of our values and like what was important to us, who we needed to be around. We needed the beach, we needed the mountains, we needed all of these things, which we've never really had necessarily, but that was the shake up. Be like, this is our opportunity to bring our kids up how we want them to be as grounded as possible in this technological world, which maybe we don't have that much control over. So let's do what we can to support them and their mental health. And it's a big responsibility. So
absolutely, especially when they can't make the choices themselves.
Well, So going back to when you went traveling, Bree, like as far as like your thoughts around the world, like because when you, let's say, go to places like Peru and the Inca Trail, like there's different cultures and things like that. Was that like a shift in your thoughts around what you thought was like in comparison to your upbringing and your family environment and what you were used to in your daily life? How did that sort of affect your thoughts around the world that
Definitely. And I think it was so great to do that really intensive block of, yes, probably it was very touristy in terms of I was obviously being shown up mountains by a beautiful shaman and whatever. But I think if I was to have that experience now, it would be a completely different experience to how unawake I was then compared to now. But just so magic. And I would hope that my children are able to kind of, experience that, and it's still in its form of just that beautiful wisdom.
Yeah.
It's so special.
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
that's so true, because I think one of the things around the COVID environment was that's what freaked out so many people who were seeing things or seeing through things, that was being taken, the world was being taken away from us, that we didn't have access to other places, and when we've been free to make choices to go wherever we wanted to, that was being held in captivity.
Yeah.
It was very challenging for a lot of people.
I remember saying to my friend, I'm like, oh, my passport's going to expire. Like I've always traveled so much. And it's been expired for 4 years. Like I haven't actually renewed it yet. But like in my previous life, or years ago, that would never have been the case.
Yeah.
Like, you would never let your passport expire. Absolutely.
Yeah. I would have been a priority.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a funny one.
Beautiful. So what kind of things have happened to, or what are happening to you and for you? Like we sort of say for you, because we like to see that
Opportunities.
opportunities in every challenge. Obviously moving must have been a big adjustment, as you're sharing.
Yeah, so that was, but there was, I guess, my husband and I had made that decision to do that. He wanted to get out of corporate to kind of start his own business in the holistic health space. So that was kind of like the premise of the move, obviously more space for the kids as well. But that kind of led to an even deeper unfurling of like, okay, so what does that actually mean to us?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that we went into a lot of deep rabbit holes about, our own health. I haven't had like a health, touch wood, I haven't had like a health thing where I've needed to kind of pivot for, but I guess I supported him in kind of his journey of all of that as well. So I actually forgot the question of what you're talking about. We're going
you're going there, like how do you, what kind of things are happening, around you or for you? And I mean, that's, when you're in a relationship, like, as you say, you've got the gift of your own good health, but when, your partner is experiencing things and you're holding space for them, that's a lot of things that sort of shift and change and need balancing, isn't it?
Exactly.
Well as careers.
Yeah. So I guess what's happening for me at the moment is obviously we've got nurtured beginnings. I guess I'm trying to balance my masculine and feminine. That's my like main kind of juggle at the moment. And I think when you're someone who just wants to give and support and love on so much something, balancing that with family, balancing that with like the project. I also work full time as well. So it's yeah, it's a lot, but I've loved it, and I've had to shift and change a lot of things. And even with our family dynamic, there's been, financial things which we've had to work through. All of these sort of things have all come up. And I think come up at a like perfect time postpartum to be able to actually, sit with them and address them as well. I forgot to mention that when I met Araha before we started Nurture Beginnings, I actually started working with her as a client. So I was her client. She's a master Reiki healer, and she does motherhood coaching, like 3-month block kind of in-depth integrations. So that's how we kind of started working together. And I think that is another part of what's happened for me, to be able to kind of back myself and trust myself and recognize these imbalances between maybe feminine and masculine energies of where I've put myself in the last little while. So that's been a gift in itself.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's really huge. Yeah. I think for the women that listen to our podcast, that'll be a real piece of gold right there, what you just said, because it's a challenging thing to be able to balance all that, you know, especially when you have young kids. It's really tricky, and you kind of, I think the old way would be having to just be the best mother you can be, but I think there's a new kind of energy coming through where you can actually have it all, you know, you can.
It's an allowance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's that trusting in the power of being a woman too, and that's not anything feminist or anything to take away from the man. It's just, you know, we can do it all, and we can do it in a way that's nurturing.
As long as you call in the support, because you need to have your people, and they need to be bringing you joy and not draining you at all, so that you can be in your power. I think that's really important.
I love that what you said about being in your power, because often that's the difficulty between recognizing your masculine and your feminine, where we can lose that perception around when we are being continuously masculine, because we see that as being in our power, or, you know, and not acknowledging our feminine. Was that something for you? Because I feel like you've got that leadership quality that perhaps steps in.
Yes, I can be a little bit over. I think I learnt those lessons quite with my firstborn, for sure. That primal instinct of that mother, like, this is how, or this is what he wants, or this is, you know, and then having that kind of overbearing masculine, but also inherently feminine, nurturing, like, this is an extension of my body. I know exactly what this baby needs.
Yes.
If that's where it kind of all starts, and then it just kind of ebbs and flows throughout there. But yes, I definitely started to understand more about that in my first postpartum.
Yeah.
But I guess it doesn't stop, does it?
No.
That link, like, you know, we have children now that are in their 20s. Neither of us can, like, stop letting go of those feelings, or we're just they're just coming. But when you're talking about postpartum, can you just explain for our listeners? Like, I mean, we've all got a bit of an understanding of that, but would you like to share a little bit around what postpartum
in the holistic, from Bree's view, what that means? That would be beautiful.
Yeah, so postpartum to me is not just the 6-week check. It is not as soon as you've had your baby and you've gone to the GP and you've tick, 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 that's all done. Welcome, you're now in week 7 of your baby's life. That's not what postpartum is.
That was kidding. That was me.
But you know what? Yes, that was when we knew that, but now we know it's much longer. We know the effects of not being optimized in your nourishment and your nutrition and your mental health, and just all of the kind of environmental things that happen from in that whole rite of passage from birth into motherhood. We know that can last up to 7 years if we're not really nourishing and nurturing and supporting ourselves in that time. So postpartum and matrescence kind of work hand in hand. But I would still say I'm postpartum. I stopped breastfeeding maybe 4 months ago or something. So we had a long breastfeeding journey, but I still feel like I'm still landing after kind of all of those hormone shifts, all of those changes, all of that unfurling, unconditioning, relearning, unlearning.
Yes, my goodness.
That's not a dictionary definition of postpartum, but from a holistic perspective, I think all of this needs to be incorporated into what postpartum looks and feels like. And it might feel different from your first kid to your 5th kid. It might feel different every single time.
Yeah, it's
a relief.
It's so beautiful though hearing you say that though, just from thinking about my first birth, which was 27 years ago. And I'm sitting here listening to you talk about all of that, and I'm like, ignorance is bliss, you know, because I literally didn't know any of that. I was just literally totally in the program. Had to go to see the nursing, I don't know, whatever you call it, the nurse at a house somewhere to get my checkup to make sure the baby was latching on. There was no care or any of that, but I didn't even pick up on that. Like, that's how asleep I was, you know. I was just
probably so stressed running to that meeting, like, oh my God, I've got to juggle the nap and all this to get to the meeting to say,
yes. Yes,
You're all
in a
good.
tick.
Yeah.
And then go home but now after having my my bonus daughter Chrissy, she's just been such a oh
Very
my God,
conscious around-
very conscious around the children and the surroundings and the environment and how the child's birthed and all that. And I'm just like, oh, I just feel sad for my two children that never had that experience, but luckily now it's coming in different ways. Now they're older, but yeah, it's just so much was missed.
But if you think even the generation before your generation and
Oh,
before that, like wild, like
yes.
for my grandchildren, it's going to be even more wild.
Yeah.
So it's just the awakening.
Absolutely, way it certainly is.
And that's what's so beautiful about what you girls are creating in
Yeah.
this space, and because what doulas, the role of doulas now, and pregnancy and birthing and all those little support avenues that are available to us to like hypnobirthing, all these which I had was so grateful for. Like you said, what your children are going to experience by nature of their birthing experiences is, and what it's going to continue to evolve and expand to, is just so bloody exciting.
And what the effects are on the children, of that generation. How is that going to affect their outcome? I mean, I'm sure it's going to be amazing and beautiful, and they're going to be such awake beings. We know that now, that there are a lot of babies being born that are just like coming in knowing stuff already. And to have that parent awake as well, to be able to nurture that side of things, is so amazing. It's just, it's really incredible.
And what I really love as well is we're starting to talk more about our cycles, and we're honoring those, and we're talking about them with our sons, with our daughters. We're like really bringing that to the forefront as a normal conversation, so that we can reconnect back in, because we have become so like not connected to it and shunned away and in the masculine and not recognizing, listening to our body. So all of these sorts of things I think are just so important, and I'm sure Nurtured Beginnings will evolve more so in that way, just to support women in general through all of these things. So I've never said that out loud before, so better tell her how. There
we go. It's out there. It's already manifesting. Yeah, that's beautiful. I actually work with young girls, and part of my program is around puberty, and it's around teaching them about the moon cycles. And they're all just blown away. They're like, getting your period's yuck. And I'm like, well, actually it's not. It's, and I've started to plant seeds around that, just changing the narrative, because it is known
so
as
precious.
Something that's just yuck. And it's like, oh my God, if you only knew, So yeah, just explaining different things and connecting it back to the moon and nature and all of that just gives them a different viewpoint of it. And they're like, they're blown away when they realize, okay, the cycles are the same, and we have 4, blah, 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 blah. But it's changing the narrative around that, which is really beautiful too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you talk around, so before we go to the next question, I just want to, because I feel like it'll add value to going to the next question. When you talked around your birth experiences, if you don't mind, I'm sure it probably comes through in what you're sharing through Nurtured Beginnings. Where you said your first experience was a beautiful birth, and your second birth, obviously twins, it's a little bit different experience. But did you do home birthing, or did you have a doula or work with midwives? What support did you call in through those journeys?
So my first birth was it was in the hospital system. I was quite young. I was 28 when I had my first baby, but I was lucky enough to be in the MGP program. So I had that continuity of care. I was obviously in the system, but I didn't feel fear. I don't know if that was naivety, or if I just wasn't listening, or if I wasn't told, I don't know. So I kind of glided through that one, which I was really happy with. Obviously, Caleb not everything was perfect. Like, he had to go to special care after for a few days and things like that. But the birth itself, I was left alone. It was very primal, beautiful. Just the trainee midwife with me. My other midwife came in like just as I was transitioning, and it was just this beautiful thing. But a water birth, dark room, all of these things, really, really beautiful. And then my twin birth, we were in the midst of moving house. Twins is obviously more high risk, although I was textbook, everything was all good positioning wise and health wise for both me and the twins the whole time. So I kind of didn't have any continuity of care because I wasn't able to get into a particular program. I had to go to a certain meeting point because it was twins, but it was never the same person. And it was actually always at a different hospital because there was like 3 different hospitals that I went through. Not any fault to hospitals. I didn't even consider home birth for the twins because I think I was like, oh, no one said that that's possible.
Yes.
Like, that wasn't even in my like radar of being awoken in that side of things as yet. And now with Nurture Beginnings, I'm just like, oh my God, it's definitely possible. You have the right support in play for sure. So yeah, I guess that was the unfurling there. So I went from like a dark room, salt lamp, water birth, calm birth experience to like literally 40 people in the room, fluorescent lights, 2 resus tables, like epidural. So I couldn't actually move at all, which was not ideal, but I had to, that was the only thing I didn't lose. I'd lost my negotiation on that one. So I guess, the polarity of both experiences, obviously very grateful that everyone was well and all of these things, but I think Nurtured Beginnings was born because I'm able to kind of sit with these 2 experiences. And although every single person that I've ever met who's had a baby has a different birth experience, I feel like there's so much value and nourishment in just trusting yourself, connecting yourself, learning how to meditate, just coming back into your body, whether it's through breath or through thought or whatever, preparing nourishing things, which is going to optimize your nutrition and, what you can actually say, Uncle Jody or whatever, Auntie Jody, can you please bring 5 jars of, congee and broth and this, and like, this is what I need. So you're able to ask for the support, which is actually going to help you. So, I think these 2 experiences were obviously all for a reason, to be able to kind of just like bring me back into what feels right and nourishing and what we want to share with the world.
Absolutely. And to be able to have the understanding for others, for other mothers that are coming into your space, to be able to share from a space where you may have some understanding for that, because you've had both experiences.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow, it's powerful.
So
And
I think, sorry, you go.
I was just going to say too, that, we talk a lot about the holistic birthing process and all of that, but these days too, there are some, that most hospitals will cater for any of and all of these different ways of birthing these days as well. So, there's no one better than the other. It's definitely, what the woman chooses to do. I just wanted to share that just for the listeners to know that, there's no right or wrong here. It's kind of, yes. I think the more what we're trying to say and what you're trying to say is that it's in your hands always when it comes to the birthing process.
Exactly.
Not always.
Until you have to shoot
the very
end. Inside the course as well, there's no preference of hospital, home birth, birth, whatever. Like, it's literally nourishment, nurturance yourself. The birth preferences is completely up to you. That's like the sidelines, really. It's you are going into your journey.
It's
so
where you feel safe, and literally sometimes it's, and that's why your support team around you is so valuable, and all the little micro moments along the way, isn't it? Because there's so many valuable experiences that people can share by nature of actually communicating to each other. And as you say, the whole nurturing process, how your energy is and how much more vital you are, and instead of being, physically, not mentally, physically half asleep through an experience because your body's not nourished, you haven't got, it can be as simple as that sometimes, isn't it?
Absolutely. 100% agree.
Wow. So what's the MGP program?
Midwife group practice.
Yes,
It's like a small team within a hospital birth, like a birth suite setting, in New South Wales. I'm not sure about other states, but and then you have like your midwife. So he or she may or may not be on shift, but you actually meet all of that midwife's team. So you have your meetings at the same time, same place throughout your whole pregnancy. And you have that continuity of care. They have all of the same, yes, they have the same process and procedures because they're in a hospital setting, but it's very much heart-led, women-led. It's midwives are leading these meetings, and if you need obstetricians or whatever, they can obviously have that support there, but you're having that midwife connection, which I think is really, really special.
It is. It takes away the hardness, doesn't it? I don't know what it is about the word doctor, but it just takes away it just seems more nurturing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When you think about that. Yeah.
And you build
so clinical.
Sorry, what's that?
You build that relationship with them.
Yeah.
Extension of your immediate family. They become one of you, don't they?
Yeah. In that moment, in that week, you love them.
Well, through my first pregnancy, I was going to have a home birth, but there was no insurances available for midwives at that time. There was a bit of a crisis going on in the medical profession, and so the midwife that we had chosen, she worked with us from doctors' rooms, and then when it came to birthing, we went to the hospital, and she knew the midwives there. So it was kind of what you were sharing, where she was our person in the room, and they would sort of come in and out and see what we needed to be supported and everything. So it was the next best thing to being at home, and just so nurturing and so cared for in that time where you just have everything's happening for the first time.
Exactly. So I didn't have a doula with either of my births either. If I had my time again, I 100% would. There's so much value in just that listening ear, that support, even if they don't hold the baby or whatever, like whatever you need, you don't know what you need yet. So having that support from a one-on-one, someone who you don't have expectations of, like a family expectation or a friend expectation on, it's your doula, and that's like your person who you've aligned with and you've allowed in that sacred space. That's really special as well.
And I think what's beautiful around that relationship is they're supporting you and your baby, but they're also, the husband is a part of that relationship as well. And that's, that's often a really beautiful thing, where that level of intimacy creates such a beautiful, I'll say, foundation for the journey.
That trusting.
It's really important. Okay, let's move on. Wow, time is flying. And that happens when we talk about kids and births and all beginnings, and so it's such a beautiful area to talk about. Is there anything, Bree, that you had to give up along the way?
Oh, there's a lot of identity and ego deaths.
Oh, we like that.
Along the way.
I like that. Tell us about that. Yay! I love this area.
You mentioned before that you've obviously all seen hospitality industry. It's very fun. There's a lot of a lot of dramas, a lot of people, a lot of maybe a bit showy and sometimes, I don't know. So I guess if I reflect on my life now compared to then, I still am, but I'm not practicing, obviously, a trained sommelier. So there was a lot of wine going around, beautiful degustations, out for dinner. Like, I don't know who I thought I was. I could not afford
We're
this.
coming to yours for dinner.
But I think
about it all.
But I think now in reflection, it's been such a big part of the process of like dropping the things which are head-led, not heart-led. And that all comes up in motherhood as well. So you can't escape it, really. So if things are going to come up which you need to kind of shift and move, they're going to come up in motherhood. And you confirm they continue to come up, so that's great.
You're welcome.
So on a level, and no judgment involved, because just it's like a curiosity thing, because we all have different journeys. Like going from that environment with beautiful food and wines and things like that, and as you said, like welcome arrival of your first child, did you give up alcohol through your pregnancy?
I actually was so sick that yes, I actually
That was one of those I had to.
yeah, it was
Maybe
my
said-
body. It was my body telling me that I just couldn't deal with that. I have no judgment either way. Obviously, you need to do what's right for you, but I physically could not even handle a coffee. I was
Yeah.
very sick.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I'm hearing you. I was similar to my first. I gave up coffee and didn't drink it for about 10 years, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just couldn't stand the
Making
taste
up
of
for
it.
it now.
I'm making up for it now. Yeah, it's I'm listening to you too, and I'm suppose there's drugs and all of that. I mean, I know that for sure because I was in that world. I was on the other side of that world, drinking the wine and you know, eating the good food and probably, you know, having drugs and doing all those fun things too. Because it's all part of that. You know, it's like
Yeah, the whole shebang.
it's like the sugary things, isn't it? That we, you know, that we think are filling us up, and they, yeah, it's the
Substitutes.
weekend. You know, we can go out and we can drink some nice wine and eat some nice food, and then, you know, whatever else comes with it, and you know, I'm happy.
Instant gratification, that
Yep.
social rush, that like I feel needed, I'm having this like party time.
Yep.
Very different to motherhood. You still
Yeah.
need, but not in that way.
Yes. How beautiful is it that our children come in to strip us? Or, you know, I mean, if we're open to doing that, because there are, I mean, let's get honest, there are some parents that actually choose to stay on that road, which is totally okay. But you know, our kids do come in to ground us and to strip us and to say, hey, I'm here now, you know, you're going to have some fun with me.
Exactly. Divine timing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, because you guys share a lot with Nurture Beginnings around food and nourishment, do you find that that's something that's quite a I'll say a foreign thing to a lot of people to even look at supporting themselves in that way?
I think so. And I also have some imposter syndrome sometime of like what I do share, because to me it just seems quite normal, quite 101, but I actually forget that there's been a journey for me to get to this point as well. So I think it's really important to not have any judgment when talking about how people nourish their bodies specifically, but to really help integrate some optimal choices that people can see where they align it and feel into that as well, because everyone will be ready in their own time. And sometimes having a pregnancy or a baby kicks people into gear, but it also sometimes it doesn't turn out that way as well.
This seems to be the theme. I don't know, theme's the wrong word too. The energy that's around at the moment is being able to allow people to be wherever they're at, you know, and allow yourself to off the hook from whatever you're experiencing, and just allow the possibility that it is all divine timing, and whatever it is that I'm walking through is perfect for me right now, and whatever they're walking through is perfect for them right now. Just love them through it.
Exactly. I think that's the same in the healing space as well.
Yeah.
You're not going to have like some smasher like healing session or whatever you do if you're ready for it. And I think that's the same for nutrition. So if you can just slowly start to build and start to listen to your body of what actually feels right for you, I think that's you got to release. This motherhood is the surrender and the release, but if you can start to kind of incorporate things that build that trust in your body and like, oh, this does make me feel good, and use that time in pregnancy, like how beautiful to set you up for your family and you know that their nourishment and their health, which is going to be your priority, let's be honest.
Totally,
Let's be honest. Yes.
And as you say, like I remember a friend sitting with us at breakfast one time saying, if you don't, like, you know, have you had breakfast? And I was like, oh, I'll have it later. And she was like, no, if you don't nourish yourself, how are you going to be able to nourish your children? And I was like, oh, okay, that was the first kind of moment I had around sort of like priorities, including me.
And is that another one as well of like you wouldn't let your son or daughter not eat their breakfast.
Yeah.
So like, you know, that's the example that you're setting essentially as well. All of that carries through, which I think is really important.
So important.
Very powerful.
And going from like fine dining and sommelier and things like that, do you find now like with like the nourishing and the nurturing aspect that comes into family life and supporting people through what Nurture Beginnings is about, like your relationship with food has obviously changed quite a lot, you know, like it's coming around the nutrient values as opposed to just the taste, but there's a little meeting ground there, isn't there?
There is, definitely. And I think, obviously I mentioned before, we've had like financial ebbs and flows in this time as well, but even through all that, coming back to what is most important, for me and my family and our values, it's nourishing food. So as much as we do our very best to buy the best produce that we can within our means, and we just make that like our focus and our key, because that's like our core value basically as well. So yeah, there's definitely a time and a place for and different levels of, you know, I can't even remember what I'm talking about.
Like a luxury. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, like, you know, the goat cheese as opposed to, you know.
Oh no, I'm thinking more like what I'm getting from you is that, I mean, I hear what you're saying, because I think for me now, I think since, you know, getting a little bit older, I'm now totally more tuned into my body and what's good for me. And food is a major factor in that, and supplements and stuff like that, and exercise, and all of the other stuff just does not matter anymore. You know, like the going out for dinner or whatever, they're lovely to do. But for me, with where I'm at right now, nutrition and my body is the most important thing, because I know that if I can fully look after me, I can look after everybody else around me, because I'm going to be in my optimal self.
And I think that's another ego death that I potentially have had as well, because that used to be so important to me. What do you mean we can't go out for brekkie and brunch on the weekend? Like, we'll take the kids, whatever. I don't care. As long as you can have like beautiful, nourishing food, which is nutrient dense, everyone's eating together for the most part, that literally just lights me up. Like nothing else matters.
Yeah.
But I think that's what I was getting at with the goat cheese, is because often we think around, you know, like we want organic and things like that, but it's very expensive to buy organic or have the best food. But literally, you know, you don't.
We could steal from Bree's garden.
Well, yeah. You don't need to buy. You know, sprayed fruit and veggies or things like that. There's a lot of markets where you can go to and buy really affordable fruit and veggies that are spray-free, pesticide-free, but they're not necessarily organic, but they're grown in a healthy environment. They're fresh. They're from the grower. Or there's all these other ways that we can build quality into our life and experiences, and actually still be accessing really good food. And if you're making it at home, you know what goes into it as well. You know, it's not got the crap oils or the, you know, the preservatives and things in it. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So how long has it taken you to create this organic garden in your farm, in your front yard?
Well, this is our third season now. So it's we've also built like a 3-phase compost system as well.
Oh, wow.
Gone hectic. We're having chickens next.
This week.
We're like definitely still suburbia, but anyway.
Yes.
I would say it'll be just under a year, so it's still in its infancy, but it was great, like zucchini season, and just like it was going off. But we've just been learning so much. It's really kind of nerdy, but it's great.
Oh, it's great. And I was just thinking about the kids too,
I'm
like
going to
getting out
see
there
them in
there.
I mean, it does make my eye twitch quite a lot, because they're like picking stuff and like not even ready. I'm just like, oh, again, surrender.
Yes.
Picking up are they old enough to kind of get into the soil? And obviously they're picking stuff, so they must be old enough to kind of get out in there and immerse themselves.
Yeah. The eldest is 5 and the twins are 2.5. So they're all over it.
Best playground ever. It's just quite amazing how they do resonate with calling them and wanting to be amongst it.
Absolutely. It's definitely, I mean, I think we've done a fair bit of work for the relationship with food, but I think the garden is such an important one, just for that brain connection.
Yeah, absolutely. Better that than a supermarket aisle.
Like the brain connection, as you're saying, that nature and nurture, as opposed to sort of like, you know, the world that's kind of pulling us into a lot of different spaces at the moment with technology and you know, things that can work for us but can definitely, you know, suck us into a whole different arena as well.
Exactly.
So
I
that's
love
something that you wanted to obviously create when you moved down south, is to have that. Yeah.
I mean, we can't control the inevitable, and I know that technology is becoming more so. I mean, my kindergarten kid got sent home with homework that he has to do on a screen with an iPad for reading. We don't actually own an iPad.
Yeah, wow.
Oh, he's 5. Like, can't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wild,
So
isn't it?
there's lots of big questions in our house about, with the twins, like, do we go the Steiner? Like, what am I going to change? We're going to homeschool? Like, what are we going to do? It's just like, oh, I'm starting to, all the more things are coming up, but we're just going to roll through them and see where we land.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people out there that are creating these little schools too, that are, you know,
Or
more
spaces
nurtured
for-
based,
yeah.
more holistic based. Yeah. So yeah, I know there's going to be a lot more popping up.
Asking the questions, I think, is a big part of the process to, you know, to guide you in the right direction, isn't it? You know.
Exactly. And it's not about changing everything all at once. I think that's also a lot of pressure on yourself and your family. It's about just sitting with it and just feeling into the timing of when it might feel right to change one thing, change, you know, a few more, like wherever you're at is what you'll get from it.
Absolutely. Okay, let's moving on. We're coming to the end. What do you do now to support yourself with staying in the moment?
Oh, well, Araha's actually taught me this one. So I've only just started doing it. And it's not something which I can necessarily do at any time, but it's something which I've been trying to incorporate. And it's some root chakra kind of chanting, I guess you would say. So I would never have expected myself to be even uttering these words, like even 6 months, 12 months ago, but it's actually been really helping me just like get back into my body, because I'm always in this like go, fight or flight. So having that time, it can't be in the mornings because my kids wake up when it's still dark. But I think even just knowing that that's like my time at the end of the day, if there's something which is coming up or that it's been triggering for me, like that they're actually doing, I can just like, it helps me just to visualize me doing that practice to get back into my body, even if I'm not actually doing it at that particular time. That's just been a new thing for me in the last couple of months. So that has definitely helped me for sure.
Oh, beautiful.
Because we've been learning a lot around, some of our guests that have been on around somatic practices, and the lady that's coming still through around havening and things like that, and a lot of that, and previous guests around theta healing and the delta waves. And what you were just explaining then, we've been learning is exercising that muscle. It's so you can
vibration.
Yes.
And just like it's all the visual for me. I'm a very visual learner. So like there's a meditation which you do and it just like connects like your brain, and you can literally feel it like connecting your head to your heart and just like then down to your base. It's really cool. Really cool.
Yeah.
And I guess just listening to you then too, like even like what you were sharing around postpartum experiences for people, like what you're just sharing then, it's about, because connecting up the whole being, isn't it? Like, you know, the mind, body, soul, you're actually integrating. It's a grounding process, but you're integrating all the parts of you.
Exactly. So there's heaps of little, not little, some of them are like 40 minutes exercises within the course that kind of give people a little taste of that. And I guess what resonates with some in pregnancy now, it might not be for them right now, but in postpartum, they'll be like, oh, like I've had a day, like maybe I can just put this on my phone in that time and just like, you know, do that and like just see how they feel, because I think what you need changes so much. So what's working for me now might be different in a few months' time, which I think is the best bit. I think that's
absolutely the willingness to change, or you know, move and change if you need to, instead of just being kind of stuck in.
See yourself as an evolving being, a moving piece of energy, as opposed to the stagnancy and things, or the, you know, staying as we are, which I think is a thing of the past.
Yeah, I don't know if you can do that. I can just lock myself in the cupboard.
Yeah. Sometimes it feels like that. It feels like I want to do that. But there's no escaping. It's like, Mom, where are you?
Oh, that's so beautiful, Bree.
It is. Do you want to ask the last one?
Well, I kind of do, and I just want to ask, like, the work that you're doing now, is that complementary? Like, have you found something that is part of your previous skills, or is it like an involvement again, and just as when we're talking around change and things like that? It doesn't need to be detailed, but just as a how it fits in.
With my first son, I started a business just after my maternity leave with him called Little and Nourished, and I was doing like postpartum delivery packs, and I was doing like one-on-one consults for women who were introducing solids to their kids. That my focus originally wasn't pregnancy and postpartum, although I was trained in that. It was like a big baseline, but I was really interested in the kids feeding, because I think that's so important to build that relationship. So I had that kind of business there, and then I actually asked Araha if she'd like to do some meditations, because I was thinking of doing an online course for Little and Nourished. And then it just like evolved into Nurtured Beginnings, and it's like all kind of crossed into this big harmonious boiling pot. So that's kind of where that all ended up. Yeah, it's been my passion for sure. But yeah, I'm loving that it's more than just food, and more than just nourishment means so many things.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's like we were just saying, and like Amanda just said, it's an ever evolving thing. You know, it's never going to be just one thing or one way. We are moving and changing in every moment. So, you know, I'm sure this will just grow and expand, and there'll be so many new things coming in for you guys. It will be like,
that's what we've been saying. We're like, we can't keep taking these downloads. It's like,
yes, absolutely. That's what I mean. It's wild.
So in that space, like literally, because like, you know, pregnancy is one of those, when you were talking before about the masculine and feminine energy, and that mama bear and all those, that sixth sense that comes alive so much when we are pregnant and, you know, into that maternity space. Has that been something that, you know, now that you've learned, you can't unlearn? Like, is that something, that openness, that connection with your higher self, is that something that's, you know, perhaps always been there, or you're just really working with now? It's like kind of expanded through your...
I think it's always been there, but I think I wasn't listening to it. I think I was just stuck in the doing. But I think working with Araha outside of Nurture Beginnings, like from the motherhood coaching perspective, it was just a 3-month block. I've actually continued it, but that first 3-month block, it was just like, wow, like working with the moon, working with astrology, working with my cycle, which only has just recently come back. All of these kind of things, the meditations, the connection to self, all of that has been like so pinnacle for this whole thing. So I think that's been my my biggest need, and what needed to come to the forefront. For sure.
Yeah,
tapping back
so
into
beautiful.
the elemental self. I think.
Yeah. I think you need that shove sometimes, because it can be really easy just to get caught in just the usual.
Yeah,
just to really push yourself into that discomfort of like, oh, these are my shadows, these are the things that are coming up, this is why I'm triggered. I'm like, I want to pass that on to my kids. Like, you know, we know better, we know we can do better. So putting yourself out there to just learn about yourself.
So healing, isn't it, in all the ways, you know, here, like when there's been a lot of talk around the ancestral trauma lines and things like that, and this is the way through that, isn't it? We're, you know, where we're breaking those cycles of repetitive behavior that we're not really even aware of. That
exactly.
And
balancing that with things like working with the houses in the moon for astrology, like working with the new moon and full moon. So it's like, okay, I can focus my intentions for this month on what is actually planetarily happening for me. So, you know, it's not always focusing on maybe the negative of the traumas or the patterning or anything that's been passed down. It's also like the blue sky thinking of, well, okay, well, this is what inherently might be bubbling up, and being able to recognize what's illuminated for you in those months. So yeah, all of that combined, it's just a really beautiful way to work with learning.
And exciting too, isn't it? It's like I get the feeling too now, you know, once you're open, it's like everything's just coming in that you need anyway. Like I always just think now that anyone that comes into my space has got something for me or is here to teach me something. I just need to slow down and be more in the moment to be able to receive it. And you don't really have to challenge yourself in an area because it's going to come anyway. You know, if you're just open and you're willing and excited about it, it'll just happen anyway in all the moments.
100%.
Yeah, it's a beautiful
And
thing.
plus, what you're sharing around with the cycles, like the new moon, the full moon, I mean, that's also applies into your garden, which, you know, brings your children into play with that as well, where they're starting to work with those, you know, in a very natural way, isn't it? Without sort of it being a taught thing. It's just it's an emergence in that environment.
Absolutely, 100%. I think my kindy kid would be more like, he'd be more cottoned on to that, but it's just so nice seeing them out in the garden, burning the eggshells and like just doing all these little tasks, which they just love, having the power of, you know, doing that.
Yeah,
and, you know,
like magic.
For the greater good.
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah. Love that.
Just when Joe talks around Sacred Sister, like when my Mayala, it's about health and wellness, and it grew up when my children were little with my mother and myself together, and our dream was for everybody, you know, young and old, to have a green smoothie. And you know, we used to put spirulina and barley in the kids' yogurt, and it was hilarious because they'd have green and things like that. And it's just it's beautiful to have those the naturalness of all these elements present in our day and in our life. And you know, we're learning so much along the way, but to I guess reap the seeds and reap the rewards of what we're sowing, and establish those strong foundations in such natural elements. It's just incredible for our physical, mental, emotional bodies. Must be so beautiful to see.
It is. And I think moving down south as well, like you can see the stars, and you can literally, like the escarpments just behind our house, like the mountain, and then we're 10 minutes walk to the beach. Like it's just such a special little place.
Yeah.
And all of these little 1%ers are just helping to ground ourselves selfishly, but also have that for them as well.
Yeah, there's something magical about that area. We do a lot of driving to Victoria, and that's one of my favourite areas is New South Wales, south of Sydney. And it's just stunning. It's so green, and you know, I've got the rolling hills one side and then the beautiful kind of untouched ocean on the other. It's just stunning. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
And you're not selfish, you're anchoring in a space for everybody else to feel the benefits of. It's your responsibility, Bree.
I'm on it.
All right, our last question,
It's
which we love to ask everybody.
Yeah.
How do you see the world now, and what do you see next for Bree?
Ooh, how I see the world now. I don't watch the news, I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
So I see the world as my very insular little world currently. I do go to Sydney sometimes. I see it as an opportunity, but I also see it as a responsibility as well. So I think we touched on it before with like, I can see all of this kind of unfolding, but I feel like we are responsible to just remember that we are humans living a human experience, and we are part of Mother Earth, and we need to kind of respect that as well. So do our little bit to kind of just bring ourselves back for there. Where do I see Bree? I see Bree just talking to more really expanding women, particularly through Nurtured Beginnings. It's just been, we've had so many yeses of people that we're aligning with, and guest speakers who want to be involved, and all of these things. It's obviously a slow burn in terms of like the business side of things, but it just doesn't even matter. Like I feel like it's brought such a kind of heart-led, genuine love and kind of passion for just being able to speak to these women and bringing power and like learning and just having like this holistic approach to kind of, just hand over, and then every week like continue to add on like different content and different speakers, and we do a podcast as well. So it's busy, but it's really great and it's really fulfilling. So I'm just hoping that continues to uncocoon itself and get on out there into the world.
Oh,
I don't think you can escape it.
Yeah.
I think it's you're nurturing yourselves as you're doing that experience, and then as you're nurturing others. So it's kind of like a self-fulfilling.
Heal the healer.
Yes, absolutely. It's beautiful, and it's so there's definitely a big space opening up for that. Yeah, more and more. Yeah,
It's the way the world needs to go.
yeah,
You know, the community that you're building and the community that you're creating for people to drop into, and being around our families and children. It's, you know, I mean, it's something, you know, our children are our future. You know, it's a simple sentence, but wow, it carries so much energy, and what you're doing to support that is, I think, just such a valuable part of how the world is moving forward into better spaces. So thank you.
yeah. Thank you.
That should have been my answer about how I said it. Beautiful.
We did it together.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
I
Bree,
love you.
it's been really an honor to sit with you today and hear your story and how much you are nurturing all these new little beings that are coming through, amazing divine mothers, and we're really grateful that you and Aroha have created such a beautiful space for this to happen.
Amazing. Your work is beautiful, ladies. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you, beautiful.